Greetings, everyone. This video is dedicated to appreciating classical music through When the Pawn, the album that was released by Fiona Apple in 1999. I want to start with talking about some insights into classical music, insights that we can further deepen our appreciation for through listening to this album. And some of the themes worth talking about that we can encounter in classical music that we also encounter in the music of Fiona Apple is first, resignation and self-destruction. Also, the idea that the dream is the poison. Also, the elements of complexity and paradox, complexity of human relationships, as well as the irrational, paradoxical nature of human experience itself. All of this we will encounter, as we will discuss, in the music of Fiona Apple on this album. But also, what is remarkable is that we encounter very similar themes, very similar ideas, very similar sentiments in the music of the great composers. And this is why I say that this is why we need Fiona Apple. This is why we need Shakespeare. This is why we need the composers, because what all of them reveal to us, what all of them teach us, is that the things that we do, the things that we think, the things that we feel do not always make sense. Indeed, we might consider our human experience to be a knot that cannot be untangled. One might be of the mindset that if I think about it enough, if I think about my problems enough, I'll be able to figure it out. I'll be able to work it out. I'll be able to set myself straight. But that is just not always the case. And this is why we need great art, the works of Shakespeare, the works of the great composers, the works of Fiona Apple, to help to remind us of this existential human truth. So what I would like to do is to explore these ideas through the songs on the album. Let's start with the first song, On the Bound. Already in this song, we have a sense of conflict and ambiguity right from the beginning of the album. To quote one of the lines from the song, "You're all I need, but maybe some faith would do me good." Another seeming contradiction right from the beginning is to question, why is she shouting, "You're all I need," with such anger? In another context, the words, the sentiment, "You're all I need," would be romantic. But here, it's clearly not. So the way in which the music is expressed belies an emotion behind the words. We can continue. "Lay your head on my lap one more time. Tell me you belong to me." Again, perhaps in one context, this could be romantic music, but in the context of this song, in the context in which it is expressed, both musically and vocally, clearly this is something painful and sad. And thus, right from the beginning, right from the first song, we don't exactly know how to accept these words. The singer herself does not seem to fully believe what she is saying. And this, right from the beginning, highlights one of the great hallmarks of the great composers, which is that the composers will often say one thing, but simultaneously imply something else. And here we see Fiona Apple doing the same thing. We're not exactly sure what the composer actually thinks. Next, we have the song To Your Love, truly one of the great masterpieces on this album. We have this line, the pain is evident in my existence. The shame is manifest to my resistance to your love. It's hard enough even trying to be civil to myself. The first line that I wanted to highlight is the pain is evident in my existence. Again, such a powerful phrase, and it resonates so strongly with the work of the great composers. Very, very often in the music of composers, we get the sense that the pain that they feel is evident in their very existence. All of these lines here seem to reflect a great self-loathing, which leads to the type of argument that is being made in this song. I want you to love me, but how could I expect you to love me when I hate myself? This song is a very, very strong example of push and pull. I'm pulling you towards me while simultaneously pushing you away. And indeed, we might say that this is precisely why this music is important. The human experience, we might say, is not about solving problems. Rather, it is about experiencing a paradox. For this insight alone, this song, this music is significant, is important, is a valuable revelation into the nature of human experience. At the climax of the song, transitioning from the bridge back into the final verse, we have the line, so now you have it. So tell me, baby, what's the word? Am I your gal, or should I get out of town? This is the climax of the song, and there's a very, very strong confessional nature to the music, an outpouring of vulnerability. I've told you at this point how confused I am, how mixed up I am, how much I loathe and resent and am confused by even myself. I'm telling you all this, so now you have it. Now, what are you going to do? This outpouring of vulnerability, this confessional nature of the music is again something that I think we find often in the works of the composers. Moving on to the third song, Limp. Certainly, this is a song about anger, about rage, but it is not exactly so simple if we consider some of the following lines. You want to make me sick. You want to lick my wounds. You want the badge of honor when you save my hide. You need my shame to reclaim your pride. You feed the beast I have within me. You fondle my trigger, and then you blame my gun. What I think is interesting is that in the first two songs, she has already made clear that she is difficult. She's conflicted, full of shame, requiring consolation, requiring reaffirmation. And so here we have a sense that perhaps the partner is exploiting that, or perhaps throwing that vulnerability back in her face. So in that sense, this song explores a further paradox in the sense that one can be confessional, one can be vulnerable, and then that same vulnerability can be turned against you. Moving on now to the fourth song on the album, Love Ridden. Love ridden, I will look at you with the focus I gave to my birthday candle. I wished on the little blue flame, and baby, I wished for you. Here, Fiona Apple creates a very poignant image, something that is beautiful and something that is also sad. And this is, again, indeed one of the characteristics of the great composers. Often, one of the dualities that they will often link is the sense of beauty being tied inextricably to pain or to sadness. She continues, I want your warmth, but it will only make me colder when it's over. We have the sense here that love is something that we want, but that it also leads to hurt. The warmth and the cold are connected. Indeed, what Fiona Apple is doing here is something that all of the master composers do, which is to tie together these dualities, these seeming contradictions, love and pain, beauty and sadness, warmth and cold. And now we arrive at another one of the masterpieces on the album, Paper Bag. I know I'm a mess he don't want to clean up. These hands are too shaky to hold. With sentiments such as these, we return back to the ideas explored in the first two songs. I want him to love me, but I know that he won't because I am too complicated. So I resign myself to not love, even though that resignation is painful. And this culminates in one of the greatest lines on the entire album. Hunger hurts, but starving works when it costs too much to love. A line, a sentiment that is truly remarkable and that all the composers certainly would appreciate. This is indeed a perfect encapsulation of the work of the composers. Namely, I am resigned to yearning, longing, emptiness, because to actually pursue love is too painful. Another way of framing this, perhaps, is my dream is my source of pain. We must stay away, stand apart from the dream, because to actually touch the dream would destroy us. Similar to what we saw in some of the earlier songs, Love Ridden, for example, there's this idea that warmth and cold, beauty and sadness are connected. Here we have hope and disappointment becoming inextricably connected. For example, in the first verse, the dove is just a paper bag. In the second verse, I thought he was a man, but he was just a little boy. And again, what is remarkable about this music is the way in which it links and the way in which it connects and ties together hope and disappointment. It's not a song about hope. It's not a song about disappointment. It's a song about both and about acceptance or resignation to the fact that I will always hope and I will always be disappointed. And I have resigned myself to that situation because to actually be involved in a relationship is a far worse fate. Hunger hurts, but starving works when it costs too much to love. Next, we have the song A Mistake. I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to do it on purpose. Yet another perfectly expressed contradiction. And indeed, the composers themselves are always tempting fate, always making mistakes on purpose, always saying things that they probably should not say. This makes me think also of the second song, To Your Love, and the confessional nature of that song. So now you have it. Now I've told you all these things that probably I shouldn't have told you. But now that you have it, now what are you going to do? So similarly, the composers are always making mistakes, maybe going a little too far, saying things that are unexpected and perhaps out of place for their confessional nature. Another one of the great lines in the song, if you want to make sense, then what you looking at me for? Again, I can say with confidence that this is something that all the composers would say. All of the works of art are great because they don't make sense. But it is through the flow of experience, which may or may not make sense, that we are able to see a reflection, a mirror of our own human experience. Moving on now to another one of the great masterpieces on the album, Fast as You Can. Musically, this might be the most interesting of the songs on the album. The music is almost manic and almost frenzied, and there is a constant conflicted pleading, namely, please run away from me as fast as you can. In this, we see that again, there is a push and a pull. There is certainly the push, run away from me as fast as you can, but then also in the middle section, we see a pull, the middle section of a completely different musical character reveals that indeed she wants to receive unconditional love badly. We have the line, and I'll be your girl if you say it's a gift. I'll be your pet if you just tell me it's a gift. There's some interesting insight here. Maybe she does want unconditional love, but maybe she does not believe that she fully deserves unconditional love. I want you to accept me as I am. But in order to receive that acceptance, I'm willing to be your girl. Indeed, I'm willing to be your pet. Not exactly a relationship of equals here. Probably the most interesting part of this song, and probably one of the most interesting parts of this album, is at the very end, where we hear the slowing down of the manic repeating of the phrase, fast as you can. For most of the song, she's spitting out these words as fast as she can. But here in the end, we hear the elongation or augmentation of the length of the phrase, fast as you can. Very beautifully and very powerfully, this is the contradiction of emotions expressed solely through music. There is perhaps here a reluctance to actually push the person away. Even the music cannot make up its mind. Again, there's a beautiful sense of the music belying the words. I'm pushing you away. Run away from me as fast as you can. But the elongation of the phrase musically seems to present some degree of ambivalence. Again, this connects Fiona Apple's music to the tradition of all of the great composers, in the sense that very often what makes their music great is that we have a sense that even the music itself cannot always make up its mind into what it is trying to say or how exactly it feels. And this is what makes this music, the music of the composers, the music of Fiona Apple, so powerful, because in being able to capture that experience, we see our experience, our human experience, reflected back in an authentic way. Next, we have the song, The Way Things Are. To me, this is another one of the great masterpieces on this album. I'm much better off the way things are. This is very often the sentiment of the composers. As we saw earlier in the song paper bag, there's a sense of resignation, resignation to the yearning. I am resigned to the yearning, the longing, even the sense of emptiness. And that yearning, that longing, that emptiness, it's painful, but to actually pursue love is more painful. And hence we see that captured here as well in the sentiment, I'm much better off the way things are. Hunger hurts, but starving works when it costs too much to love. Later in the song, we have the lines, I wouldn't know what to say to a gentle voice. It'll roll right past me. If you chalk it up, you'll see I don't really have a choice, so don't even ask me. In these lines, very, very powerfully, she is able to capture a sense of deep sadness, of deep resignation. We'll see this in the song Get Gone as well, this sense of, so don't even ask me, leave me alone. The song reaches a great climax. How could I fight when we're on the same side? This is one of the strongest expressions of self-loathing on the album. In other words, saying, how can we fight? We're on the same side. You can't fight with me. I hate myself too. This goes back to some of the earlier songs on the album, for example, On the Bound and To Your Love, talking about, again, it's hard to be civil to myself. This sense of self-loathing, which only makes things worse in the context of a relationship. And so this leads to the deep resignation. I'm much better off the way things are. And this then leads to the next song, Get Gone, which is perhaps the climax of the album. How many times do I have to say to get away, get gone? I think there is something brilliant about having this song as the second to last song, because at this point in the album, this sentiment is especially poignant. Again, how many times do I have to say to get away, get gone? Indeed, every song on the album to this point has made this point. Run away from me. Run away from me as fast as you can. How many songs do I have to sing on this exact same point in order to get this point across to you clearly enough? Perhaps the climax of the entire album is when it finally reaches the line, fucking go. At this point, there is no more artifice, no more entertainment, no more self-indulgence, just as plainly and as clearly as I can say it, fucking go. The entire song, the entire album culminates here. Again, we can think of all the songs that have come before as themes on a variation of this idea. But we've explored those variations enough. Let's just get to the final punchline. Fucking go. And very often the composers seem to land at the same place. I'm mixed up. I'm tired. I'm confused. I'm exhausted. I'm resigned. I'm doomed. Leave me alone. Yes, you can see that I'm miserable. Yes, you can see that I'm resigned to yearn and to hope and to be disappointed, but I'm much better off the way things are. Leave me alone. And in listening to the album from start to finish, I really do feel that the album could have ended there. And that would have been a satisfying and culminating and consistent conclusion, because all the arrows pointed to that point, to the final conclusion, the final statement, Get Gone. But that's not the end of the album. There actually is one more song, and that song is I Know. If Get Gone is the climax, the culmination of the album, then what is left? In some ways, this song, I Know, subverts the entire album, as in it throws out everything that has been said before. Now she is no longer singing from the perspective of someone who is pushing someone away. Rather, now she is singing from the perspective of the lover, the person who is willing to wait, the person who is willing to be patient, to unconditionally support, even when that person, that other person, might not love you. This doubles down on the conflicted perspective. That is, it's not so easy to conclude and to say with finality, get gone, fucking go, leave me alone, and to be fully rid of that longing for connection once and for all. That feeling, that longing is not extinguished so easily. And perhaps that is why we need this as the final song. We return to the paradox, back where we started in the very first song. In On the Bound, with her screaming angrily, "You're all I need." It seems like On the Bound, in a sense, could have followed this song, I Know. And hence, we have a torturous, never-ending cycle. The final line of the song I Know, which in turn is the final line on the entire album, the final line is, "You don't have to say it." As in, I know you love me, you don't have to say it. But instead, there is a cut here that is much deeper. Because rather than saying, you don't have to say it, I know, she just says, you don't have to say it, implying it might not be true. And I know it's not true, but I am resigned to play the role of the martyr, to suffer in silence, to love you even though I know you do not love me. And this deepens the pain of the contradiction of the human experience. Not only can I not resolve to say with finality, get gone, leave me alone. I'm going to push you away, and I'm going to push all relationships away for good once and for all, because I'm much better off the way things are. Instead, in the final song, the rug is pulled out from under us, and I revert to the position of the victim, suffering thanklessly in silence, which we could probably anticipate is going to lead to the same sentiments on the song Limp, the third song on the album, when we restart and play through this cycle yet again, those feelings of, you've taken advantage of me. Again, here we see that seed being planted. Why does she revert to this position after all that has been said on all of the previous songs in the album? Why? This cannot be explained. So I will conclude by asking, what do the composers want us to contemplate? What does Fiona Apple want us to contemplate? Perhaps she wants us to contemplate that the blessing and the curse are connected, are two sides of the same coin. That love is the hope, the dream, the balm, and it is also the poison, the source of pain, the source of destruction. Therefore, the conclusion, the resignation, is to stay away from love. But at the same time, it is not that easy. In this way, life, human experience, is a paradox. And the paradox is something that can never be resolved. The paradox of our experience can never be escaped. But that is precisely why we need Fiona Apple, why we need Shakespeare, why we need the composers. Because the things that we do, the things that we think, the things that we feel do not always make sense. Often, our actions, our thoughts, our experiences, our feelings resemble a knot that cannot be untangled. This paradoxical experience cannot be understood. This paradoxical relationship to others, this paradoxical relationship to ourselves cannot be understood. It can only be experienced.